Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 442. 42, yes, the meaning for life, the universe and everything, 442 for the 9th of April 2017. Richard Saunders here with you from a soggy Sydney, Australia. In fact, only a couple of hours ago, a giant arc of a storm front came right through Sydney. Lightning, thunder, cats, dogs, goldfish, everything you could imagine falling from the sky. It seems to have gone now. And there's Maud in the corner. She was watching the lightning out the window. She's walking across the desk. She's getting closer and she's jumping on the floor and she wants me to play with her. You think it's easy recording the Skeptic Zone podcast? Okay, you sit there and be a good cat while I tell thank you. While I tell everybody what's coming up on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone. We're going to kick off with Mandy-Lee Noble, the Diet Skeptic. This week, Mandy-Lee's going to be telling us all about myths and misconceptions about coconut oil. I used to use coconut oil when I was a kid as sunscreen. I don't know if that was a very good idea. Coconut oil, I do like the taste of it, but what are some of the misconceptions about coconut oil? Is it the wonder, natural, super-duper food we all hear about? Find out at the top of the show with Mandy-Lee Noble. Following that, it's Dr. Rachie Reports. This week, Dr. Rachie found herself on ABC Radio here in Australia talking about conspiracy theories. So what we're going to bring you as part of Dr. Rachie Reports this week is a highlights, truncated version of the radio interview she did on ABC Radio. If you want to hear the full talk, the full interview, which goes for much longer, I'll put a link in the show notes. But highlights of Dr. Rachie talking about conspiracy theories. Following that, it's Brew Ha Ha from Australia Science TV. And this week, Ben Lewis will be telling us about how you can help science. Then we have a story from the Australian Skeptics about the staggering number of complaints made about or against chiropractors in Australia. Way out of proportion to other healthcare professionals, we might say. Complaints about chiropractic, a very worrying report coming up a bit later on in the show. And then we head for Sydney Skeptics in the pub, and we ask pub goers what their predictions are, their psychic predictions or otherwise, for the rest of 2017. Tonight, the part of Maynard will be played by Richard Saunders. Yes, it's normally Maynard running around Skeptics in the pub with his microphone. He was indisposed this week, so I played the part of Maynard. And I'm using a backup microphone, so you'll hear a bit of popping. So just be aware for that. And then to round off the show, a very brief report recorded this afternoon. I spent the afternoon with some lovely people from the Stranger Things meetup group, where we spent hours poring over psychic predictions as part of this project, the Great Prediction Project. And it was all a matter of researching their predictions to see if they were true or otherwise. A big task. And I think there'll be many more afternoons of concerted effort marking psychics' homework. It's an odd sort of thing, isn't it? What do you do for a living? I mark the homework of psychics. I see. Now, here's a note to those people who've written into the Skeptic Zone in the last week to congratulate Maynard on his win at the Castaway Podcast Awards at maynard.com.au. You can hear Maynard's award-winning funny podcast. Great stuff. The note is, thank you. That's really fabulous that you're thinking of Maynard. You can contact him direct at maynard.com.au. And for those people who are inquiring about using Maynard for gigs and whatever, that's the place to do it, maynard.com.au. Congratulations once again, Maynard. What a fun night that was. And I hope there will be lots of videos online soon from the night that I was taking of Maynard on the red carpet. But I will keep you informed about that in the coming weeks. Oh, that's enough for me at the moment. I think Maud the cat's gone outside the door of the studio. Don't know why. She's probably going... She's gone downstairs. It's time for Maud. She ran down the stairs. She's looking for more cat food. I'm going to run down. I'm not going to have cat food. I'm going to have some avocado and toast. Yes, avocado on toast. Maybe with a bit of Vegemite. It's a good combination. It really is. I don't care what you say. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. That looks good enough to eat. Or does it? Here's the Diet Skeptic, Mandy-Lee Noble.
Hello, Skeptic Zone listeners. Mandy-Lee Noble here. Dietitian and skeptic reporting from Brisbane. This week on the Diet Skeptic Report, I will be investigating coconut oil. The use of coconut oil has been very popular for some time with health and wellness gurus such as celebrity chef Pete Evans, Lola Berry and Sarah Wilson. They have attested to coconut oil's excellent cooking properties and superior health benefits. Unfortunately, time does not permit me to examine every claim made about coconut oil on the Diet Skeptic Report, so today I will address some of the key underlying misconceptions that have led to coconut oil being perceived as a modern-day panacea. The first misconception is a simple one. Does coconut oil have a high smoke point? The answer is no. Coconut oil does have a slightly higher smoke point than butter, but it is much lower than olive oil, canola oil, avocado oil, and nut oils. Coconut oil is not a good choice for high temperature cooking, like shallow or deep frying, and should only be used for light sautéing. However, coconut oil is very stable at room temperature. It has a long shelf life and can be stored in the pantry without going rancid. The properties of coconut oil make it a good substitute for dairy in dairy-free and vegan desserts. The second misconception is a bit tricky, but an important one to understand. Those who promote coconut oil as a healthy fat often claim that it's absorbed differently to other fats. But is this the case? The answer is a bit complicated, but for all intents and purposes, no. Coconut oil is made up of a fixed ratio of different fats that are different lengths. Around 15% of the fats that make up coconut oil are 10 carbon atoms in length or less. They are described as medium chain length fatty acids, and they are unlike other dietary fats in that they are absorbed directly from the digestive system into the blood where they can be used as energy. Other dietary fats are long-chain fatty acids. They are broken down with bile and digestive enzymes before absorbed in packages called chylomicrons that transport the fatty acids to be used as energy or stored as fat tissue. The confusion with coconut oil is with the lauric acid component. Lauric acid is a fat that is 12 carbon atoms in length. It makes up about 50% of coconut oil. The remaining 35% of coconut oil is made up of long-length fats. Lauric acid is sometimes called a medium-chain fatty acid, and at other times it is called a long-chain fatty acid. But it is mostly digested like a long-chain fatty acid. This means that most of the fats that make up coconut oil are broken down with bile and digestive enzymes and absorbed as chylomicrons. Regular coconut oil is sometimes confused with artificial preparations of medium-chain fatty acids that are called medium-chain triglycerides. These artificial preparations are used in research and have special medical applications. They are derived from coconut or palm oil, but they only contain the fats that are 8 or 10 carbons in length. Medium-chain triglycerides are given to those who cannot digest regular fats found in food due to medical conditions. They're added to medical supplements and preterm infant formulas, given under medical supervision, as they have the potential for serious side effects. The misconception about the absorption of fats in coconut oil has come about by scientific and medical research being misinterpreted. For the experts, it can be difficult to rebut pseudoscientific claims about health without giving long-winded explanations of the underlying science. Health and wellness gurus muddy the waters on health and nutrition by encouraging their followers to ignore the experts' interpretations and attempt to interpret the research for themselves. The third misconception is especially important for those who've made the switch to coconut oil for health reasons. Does coconut oil have the same cardiovascular disease risk factors as other saturated fats? The answer to this is yes. Coconut oil is 90% saturated fat and has been found to increase both LDL cholesterol, which is a cardiovascular risk factor, and HDL cholesterol, which has cardiovascular benefits. Clinical trials and observational studies have reported that overall coconut oil raises total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol to a slightly lesser extent than butter, but to a higher extent than unsaturated vegetable oils. Replacing healthy oils with coconut oil would reduce the potential for cardiovascular benefit while increasing cardiovascular risk factors. Of course, the advocates of coconut oil would refute these facts by pointing out the healthy lipid profiles and low rates of cardiovascular disease among Indigenous populations who include coconut in their traditional diets. However, for these populations, coconut is often the sole source of saturated fat in their diet that otherwise consisted of seafood, fruits, and vegetables. The final misconception is that coconut oil can be used as an alternative to conventional dental hygiene. The ancient practice of oil pulling, or swishing edible oil between one's teeth for up to 20 minutes, has made a modern-day resurrection, but there is little evidence of it being beneficial beyond the mechanical action of dislodging food from around the teeth. Due to a lack of evidence, the American Dental Authority does not recommend oil pulling as a supplementary or replacement practice to standard oral care. So, the final word on coconut oil is to ignore the hype and enjoy coconut oil within the guidelines for other saturated fats, considering individual cardiovascular risk. Include coconut oil in amounts that provide desirable flavours and textures on the background of a balanced diet. Thank you, listeners. Until next time, this has been the Diet Skeptic.
Did you see that UFO sighting that made the news? What did that latest study about alternative treatments really say? Is this photo making the rounds real or a hoax? Doubtful News is a unique website featuring news about pseudoscience, the paranormal, anomalies, and questionable claims framed with a skeptical view. Come visit doubtfulnews.com every day for news about cryptozoology, conspiracies, shams, scams, and more. Follow us on Twitter at Doubtful News. Critical thinking is essential in assessing today's news. Doubtful News helps you decide, can you really believe this stuff?
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachael Dunlop.
On 666 AM, digital radio and the ABC radio app, This is Afternoons on ABC Radio Canberra.
Now, you might recall we spoke to Dr. Rachael Dunlop a few weeks ago. It was on the validity, or otherwise, of seeking medical advice online through things like Dr. Google. Well, it turns out she loves a good conspiracy theory too. And since she started living and working in the US this year, she now finds herself in prime territory for the latest from the tin foil hat wearers. Now, Rachael, good afternoon. Or good evening for you. Good. Now, I'm going to start by reading the note that you sent to Brett last week to talk about this. You said, quote, "I've been monitoring the latest conspiracy theories, and the new one is that Australia doesn't exist because England made it up to send convicts off the end of a flat earth." What on earth are you talking about?
Yeah, this was one that happened when you were away, actually, and it turns out that it might be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but when it was first sent out, it was taken very seriously. It was a person in Scandinavia who decided that they would post this on Facebook, and basically what they said is that it's a hoax, and like you said, Britain moved all their criminals out of England, but really just like sent them into the sea, and said that they went to Australia. So she was also saying, if you think you've been to Australia, you're terribly wrong, and all the pilots are in on this, and it's all a big conspiracy.
Where am I right now?
Well, I don't know. See, I'm on a phone, but I could just be calling the sea. I don't know.
Now, why on earth do conspiracy theories begin in the first place, and why are some of them so believable?
Well, I guess, conspiracy theories really are an explanation of an event or something that happens that where people invoke a conspiracy without reason, and they often do it because they don't want to believe the truth. Or, you know what, it's also more interesting to say that aliens came down and took away Elvis than to, think that he died of obesity and a heart attack. So in some cases they can actually be really fun, but in some cases they can also be harmful because there are some that actually cause harm, that depending on what they're about.
And the most common and obviously well-known conspiracy theory is probably the moon landing. Has there ever been a theory that's run quite so long?
You know what? I don't think there is. I mean, this one's pretty persistent, but the other one maybe is the Roswell incident, which people may remember is back in the 50s there was a weather balloon that landed in America, and it was then taken into a facility and people said it was UFOs and that the government was covering up by saying that it was a weather balloon. And, of course, then pictures came out of bodies that looked like aliens, and people were claiming that the government was doing experiments on aliens in Roswell in Area 51. And that has spurned a huge, tourist attraction in that part of the States now, where people go there to see the aliens. But
there are alien cafes and everything.
Exactly, but, it never happened. But it's a good, fun story, isn't it?
Well, maybe it did.
One of the most... Well, who knows? Maybe it happened. Who knows?
And are there still conspiracy theorists there around the moon landing in the United States who still don't believe it ever happened?
Yeah, there are still plenty of them. And, not that long ago, Buzz Aldrin, who was one of the astronauts that went and walked on the moon, he actually punched a non-believer in the face. And there is footage of this on YouTube because he had this guy who was filming a documentary who approached him after he'd given a speech and called him a liar and a fraud for making money off speaking about him going to the moon. And he lost his temper and he punched him in the face. So,
wow.
Which is probably not that fun for the non-believer. But, yeah, there's still plenty of people that believe that the moon landings never happened.
And how much do you think the internet drives these conspiracy theories? Is it worse today, do you think, than it was back in the day?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know, Laura, if you have heard of the Flat Earth Society. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
You might think that they would have died out many years ago with the advancement of science and us being able to circumnavigate the globe and, to actually determine that the Earth is round. But they reinvigorated themselves a few years ago, and they now have a website. They have forums, which are very active, where people go and talk about their theories of the Earth being flat, which, by the way, is quite easy to debunk that theory because there is a Qantas flight that goes from the east coast of Australia to Chile, and it gets there in about 12 hours. And if the Earth wasn't curved, it would have to break the speed of sound to get there in that time. So it's quite easy to debunk that theory, but that doesn't mean that these people won't click onto it and say, no, we actually live on a disc. That's what they believe, we live on a disc. And they can send this information out across the world very quickly through the internet and through forums, which gets it to a lot of people who maybe start to believe it. But there's some other ones that I find really fun. For example, there's one called chemtrails, which if you ever go to the Northern Rivers part of Australia, near Nimbin and Mullumbimby, which has just been subject to horrific flooding, there are big posters there that are nailed onto trees that say, look up chemtrails. And chemtrails are actually contrails that come out of an aircraft, and they're created by water vapour. But people claim that they're actually being sprayed deliberately by the government, and they contain chemicals to control the population's mind. And in some cases, they control mind control chips.
I think I saw some of these signs on the side of trees the other day when I drove past, actually. I was up there.
You probably did.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering what it was all about.
There.
Wow.
Yeah, so they actually contain mind control chips that then the government can switch on and control the population. So, but Laura, do not worry, because you can disperse those using vinegar. Okay. So what you need to do is get a spray bottle of vinegar and just a household fan, like a normal fan you'd use in summertime, and you spray the vinegar through the fan and it goes up into the sky and gets rid of them. And you can find that on YouTube, so it must be true.
Anything you find on YouTube. Well, this one I came across a couple of months ago, and it really had me going for a while there, and I'm still fascinated by it. But this whole conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney died in the early days of the Beatles in a car accident was replaced by a lookalike, and the real guy now is not really Paul McCartney. Have you heard that one?
I have heard that one. I mean, this is it gets mixed up with the whole Michael Jackson is not actually dead and Elvis never died and, works in a car wash in Arizona or something. I mean, these ones are pretty, I don't know, are they easy to disprove? It seems that they are to me, but...
Elvis is often seen in parks once a year, I think.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Elvis Festival. But I literally spent maybe 15 minutes, and I knew it wasn't true, but I couldn't help but watch the videos that so supposedly proved that Paul McCartney was dead. You can waste a lot of time online doing things like this.
Waste a lot of time. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of a guy called David Icke. He's quite a famous conspiracy theorist. He's English. He used to be a football player, and now he's one of the doyens of conspiracy theory. And he has this wonderful idea that the royal family are actually reptilians or lizard people. Have you heard about this?
No, I have not.
So basically they're a bloodline of reptilians, and they're hiding in human skin until such time as they can come out and take over the world.
Sounds like an episode of Doctor Who.
Well, I actually think the series V was based on his stories, but it's taken on a life of its own now, where people actually believe it is true. And if you go to YouTube again, which is scientifically reviewed and peer reviewed, you will find videos of the Queen where they'll have a little lizard tongue coming out at certain points to indicate that she actually is a lizard person.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rachael Dunlop. It was a fascinating subject to talk about. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks for having me.
That's Dr. Rachael Dunlop, an honorary research fellow with Macquarie University, who's currently based at the Institute for Ethnomedicine in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. She also describes herself as a scientist, a skeptic, and a seeker of the truth. The truth is out there. You're listening to ABC Radio Canberra.
And now, direct from the cafe at Australia's Science Channel, it's Brew Ha Ha with Ben Lewis.
Australian researchers need help to complete the biggest ever study into the genetics of mental health. So if you've been treated for clinical depression, they want to hear from you. All you will need to do is fill out a survey and send in a saliva sample, and then they'll have everything they need to work out what genes might be involved in causing depression. And once they know that, they can personalise people's treatment. For genetic studies to be really useful, you need a huge number of people. So while asking the public to fill out surveys for studies might not be anything new, taking it to the next level and asking them to part with a biological sample is. And if your aim is 20,000 samples, the only way to do that is to go large and ask everyone to help out. So it's no wonder this approach is becoming more and more common. So if you're a student, a teacher, a fireman, a policewoman, a chef, or a scientist, expect more chances to contribute to the scientific process. Because while science is great, sometimes it needs a bit of help.
For more Brew Ha Ha and Australian science, head for www.australiascience.tv. Now, one of the things that can sometimes surprise people when they are learning about skepticism, they're not surprised that skeptics are skeptical about things like UFOs or acupuncture, homeopathy, Reiki, the list goes on, telekinesis, spoon bending, all that sort of stuff. But when people hear that the skeptical movement in general is skeptical of chiropractic, a lot of people are confused because there's a general feeling in the community that chiropractic is a special branch of medicine, and chiropractors are legitimate physicians or healthcare professionals. Now, I won't go into the reasons at the moment why the modern skeptical movement is skeptical of chiropractic. There's plenty of information online about that. In fact, I can recommend the video by Dr. Harriet Hall, which we advertise quite frequently here on the Skeptic Zone. But this brings me to an article written by Tim Mendham, published at skeptics.com.au, which is another angle to this story. Chiropractic profession outperforms all others on number of complaints. Chiropractors make up to 0.8% of all registered health practitioners across the national scheme, and yet complaints about possible statutory offences by chiropractors in 2015-2016 constituted 44.6% of all such complaints across all of the 14 registered health professions. The figures are revealed in a profession-specific annual report summary titled, quote, Managing Risk to the Public, Regulation at Work in Australia, end quote. This looks into the work of the Chiropractic Board of Australia over the year to 30th of June 2016 and forms part of the 2015-16 annual report of the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency. Chiropractors also received nearly twice the annual average of notifications, 2.8% of chiropractors compared with 1.5% across all professions. Statutory offences are breaches of the national law committed by registered health practitioners and unregistered individuals. These include unlawful use of a protected title, performing a registered act, holding out claims by individuals or organisations as to registration, and unlawful advertising. Notifications covers all complaints or concerns. As of the 30th of June 2016, there were 5,167 registered chiropractors in Australia. Wow, 5,167 just in Australia, making up 2.8% of all registered health practitioners. Women make up to 38.5% of the profession. The total number of registered chiropractic students decreased by 34.5% compared to 2014-15 to 1,240. It is the number of complaints and possible offences which inspired the Chiropractic Board of Australia to conduct a voluntary, anonymous survey of chiropractors to gain a better understanding of practitioners' knowledge of their obligations under the national law. 82 notifications, complaints or concerns, were lodged with the AHPRA about chiropractors during the year. 601 matters were raised about possible statutory offences relating to chiropractic services in 2015-16. Almost all of these related to unlawful advertising. The statutory offence complaints constitute 44.6% of all such matters received across all 14 registered health professions, and almost double the rate of notifications across these professions. Despite these staggering numbers, there is only one reference to the offenders in the report's year in review. Quote, "We worked closely with the AHPRA to develop and refine the process for managing offences under the national law, particularly in relation to advertising, to ensure matters that pose the highest risk to the health and safety of the public are dealt with as quickly as possible." End quote. There are no mentions at all of the figures, or even of the offenders per se, in the annual report message from Wayne Minter, Chair of the Chiropractic Board of Australia, nor the joint message from Michael Gorton, Chair of the AHPRA's Agency Management Committee, and Martin Fletcher, CEO of AHPRA. There are, however, several pages of data on offences, complaints and resolutions. In 2015-16, the board conducted a voluntary email survey of chiropractors. The report says that, quote, "The highest response rate has provided the board with a better understanding of chiropractors' knowledge of their obligations under the national law and the areas in which it may need to provide more regulatory guidance," end quote. This report summary does not include the results of that survey. And it's also worth noting, although Skeptic Zone fans would be well aware of this, that many chiropractors, not all of course, but many are anti-vaccination. Many cling to very old ideas that disease is caused by misalignment of the spine and so on and so forth. So there we go, a very thoughtful report there, and that can be read at skeptics.com.au.
Dr. Harriet Hall, MD, known to thousands as the Skepdoc, a retired family physician and former Air Force flight surgeon. She writes about medicine, so-called complementary and alternative medicine, science, quackery, and critical thinking. Harriet now has a free course, a series of 10 video lectures on science-based medicine and alternative medicine. The videos and an accompanying course guide can be found by following the link at skepdoc.info or by visiting web.randy.org/educational-modules.html. Topics covered in the series are science-based medicine versus evidence-based medicine, what is CAM, chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathy, naturopathy and herbal medicine, energy medicine, miscellaneous alternatives, pitfalls in research, and science-based medicine in the media and politics. Harriet covers each topic in a matter-of-fact, no-nonsense way that's sure to educate and entertain. skepdoc.info.
It's Sydney Skeptics in the pub. No, it's not Maynard this week. Maynard is indisposed. It's Richard Saunders here reporting, pretending to be Maynard. A pale imitation, a cardboard cutout of Maynard. But tonight's big question, since we're involved with this prediction project, is what do pub goers predict for the coming year? That's the big question tonight. And we've got somebody new here at Skeptics in the Pub, and your name is?
Amy.
Hi, Amy. Why are you here?
Well, I'm here to speak about and provide some insight into what it is like to be raised within a cult and how it is in the recovery process.
Wow. That's embarrassing, because I didn't realise that you were actually one of our speakers tonight.
That's all right.
Oh dear, how embarrassing is that? So tonight we're asking pub goers and special guests if you had 2 psychic, magic, mystical predictions for the rest of 2017. They could be about celebrities or natural disasters or politicians or the royals. What's 2 random magical predictions you might have?
Oh my goodness. Most likely that we're probably going to get to the closest to the prologue of the Hunger Games than ever before in the political sphere. And hopefully these celebrities and famous people that die this year are more the villains. Your Charles Mansons, your fraudsters, your criminals. Hopefully this year we'll see the end of their lives rather than that of Carrie Fisher or David Bowie.
Oh yes, so a lot of nice, good people died last year. You're hoping that some not so lovely people died.
Yeah, I'm hoping the universe may balance it out a bit.
Well, we'll see if that prediction comes true. Thank you.
That's all right.
We have another regular pubber here. What do you think? If I was to ask you to give me your 2 psychic predictions for 2017, celebrities, royals, politicians, natural disasters, have a go.
I'm going to predict things that I would like to happen.
Sure.
I predict that American politics will improve, and I predict that the movie of Asimov's Foundation will finally come out.
Ooh. Well, I hope both those predictions come true.
Thank you. I do too.
It's Tim Mendham from the Skeptics, whose reports we often read out on the Skeptic Zone. This week, in fact, as most weeks. Tim, if you had 2 psychic predictions to give for the rest of the year, what would they be?
One, there'll be a tragedy in a royal family. I'm not saying where. Right? And there will be a major earthquake in Eurasia somewhere.
Ooh.
I think I'm looking forward to Turkey, Iran.
But when you say you're looking forward to this...
Okay. That might be a bit unfair, but I'm definitely looking to that part of the world.
Turkey, Iran... Yeah, well, okay. Your predictions have been noted.
Thank you very much. And what do I win?
We'll get to that later. Well, it's my old friend Claire back here at Sydney Skeptics in the Pub. Hello, Claire.
Hi.
The talk's over now. What the listeners don't know is there's a big talk about cults, 2 speakers. Wow, that was quite heavy, wasn't it?
I was very impressed with the clarity that our first speaker spoke with, and her openness to discuss what the effects were on herself and her family, mainly herself, and it was really, I was quite impressed.
Yeah, and both speakers tonight, we had a cult expert and somebody who was in a cult. Wow, it blew my mind tonight. Usually it's not so heavy at Skeptics in the Pub, but it was a really interesting topic.
Yes, well, I think everyone can associate with the concept of being attracted to an idea. It's just that cults, obviously, one is attracted, or someone who is attracted to a cult is attracted on a higher intensity level, I suppose, and so we can all imagine that situation, but to hear someone talk who's actually been in that, born into that cult situation and has gotten themselves out, is it's really engaging, because we can all associate with.
Well, engaging is absolutely right. Now, the question tonight, apart from that, I'm asking people, if you had 2 psychic predictions for the rest of this year, it could be natural disasters or politics or celebrities or royals or anything like that. Have a go. What are your 2 psychic predictions?
Ooh, I'd predict that politically Donald Trump will be out within a year. Yeah. My second have to be geological prediction is that, let me see, a super volcano goes off.
Not just a volcano.
Yellowstone goes bang.
No, we're not talking Vesuvius, right? Or
super volcano.
We're talking more like Krakatoa.
It's equivalent in sort of attraction to the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, well, if it happens,
the world will go bang.
If it happens, we know who to come to. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Claire.
Steadier than me. What's this one? Don't know. No, it doesn't say.
Yes, the conversation and the arguments are going back and forth here at Skeptics in the pub. But the question tonight, gentlemen, I'm asking pubbers, is if you had a psychic prediction or two to give for the rest of 2017, what would it be?
There's going to be a bad earthquake in Wellington, New Zealand. All the expensive...
Are you predicting the past now?
No. There was a earthquake in Christchurch.
There was, all right.
There's going to be an earthquake in Wellington. All the expensive houses in Berhampore are going to end up in the harbour.
Oh.
And I predict that Donald Trump is not going to be impeached despite predictions.
Not? No. Oh, now there's a bold prediction. Do you have any predictions for the rest of the year?
I've been put on the spot here, and I'd like to wish I knew. Perhaps I could say that Turnbull there'll be a leadership spill in the...
a leadership spill for the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
All right,
That'd be a change for Australian politics, wouldn't it?
That would be an unprecedented change.
Almost unprecedented. There's never been a leadership spill from Turnbull.
No.
We got some more Skeptic in the pub people here. If I was to ask you, if you had a psychic prediction or two for the rest of 2017, what would they be?
Oh, I couldn't.
You couldn't? No? Could you predict something maybe for the future of Simon Turnbull or Donald Trump or...
Yes.
Yes? Oh.
Oh, yes. He will resign.
Which one, Turnbull or Trump?
Trump's going to resign, and he will blame everyone else for voting for him.
You heard it here first.
Calling all Skeptic Zone listeners. Do you live in or near Glasgow, or are you planning to visit sometime? Then you're in luck, because the Glasgow Skeptics have got your Monday nights sorted. We're committed to filling up every available Monday night with talks on science and skepticism. Past speakers include Eugenie Scott, Jerry Coyne, Michael Marshall, Nate Phelps, Tom and Cecil from Cognitive Dissonance, PZ Myers, Richard Wiseman, AC Grayling, Noah Heath and Eli from The Scathing Atheist, Simon Singh, Rebecca Watson, and a multitude of local academics and skeptics. There's literally nothing better you can do on a Monday night in Glasgow that doesn't involve taking your clothes off. So come join us. We've also got a vibrant online community. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and get involved with the discussion. Glasgow Skeptics. Self-help for your brain.
That glorious 80s music we're doing the research part of the Great Prediction Project. I'm here with Stranger Things Down Under. Hello, Alethea.
Hello.
Hello, Trish.
Hello.
Lara.
Hi.
We're all sitting around a table here in Redfern at Trish's place with groovy music on in the background, with our laptops on the go. And what have we made it through? 2000, 2001.
2 years, we're only in the second year.
And up to 2002, right?
Like that.
But that's only the predictions that are on the spreadsheet. There's lots more to be filled out. And it's quite an interesting process, wouldn't you say, Alethea?
It's been quite a drawn-out process, because I think the problem is all these predictions are couched in such weird, vague terms that it's really hard to verify them or not. Is it a prediction or is it just a description? And if they're talking about someone's feelings, that's not verifiable.
Yeah. We just had a big argument, not an argument, a big discussion about Leighton.
It was bloodshed.
It was bloodshed, about Leighton Hewitt, the tennis player, his ankles. And because one of the predictions revolved around his ankles. And who are we up to at the moment? Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Well, indeed.
One of your favourites.
Oprah, yeah, definitely. That was
Big
sarcastic. Yep.
And apparently all sorts of things were installed for her in the year, what are we up to, 2002.
15 years ago, can you believe it?
Yeah, I can believe it. That's pretty strange. And this prediction talks about a fallout with a much revered friend that will greatly affect her, and because she trusted him. A friend she trusted. There you go. There we go. So, yeah, this has been a fun afternoon. We've already had our pizza break, which was quite good. It's the best part of the afternoon, in fact. But, yeah, it's just a matter of going through prediction after prediction after prediction and deciding whether they're predictions at all or just waffle, and then trying to decide whether they're true or not, or too vague, or no prediction. What have you found there?
No, I'm just saying, like, when you're talking about them being too vague, this one here says, there's a need to reassess her life. It's not even a prediction, it's just somebody giving advice.
Yeah,
the psychics are now apparently giving them advice.
Oh, they do that a lot.
Don't take advice from a psychic.
That's good advice.
That's Trish's advice.
That's Trish's advice.
I'm not psychic, you can listen to it.
So this is it's a really interesting project. It's a long way to go, though. But thank you, Stranger Things Down Under, for being part of this this project.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and a big thank you to Trish, Lara, and Alethea, who helped me this afternoon with the great prediction project. Many more afternoons coming up with pizza and gingerbread cookies. A fun afternoon, and but very hard work, I must say. It's quite an effort to go through prediction after prediction, and we have hundreds and hundreds more to do. And thank you to those lovely people who came along to Sydney Skeptics in the pub. What a fascinating night that was about cults. Very worrying, but fascinating all the same. And we look forward to seeing everybody at Sydney Skeptics in the pub the first Thursday of May. Coming up on next week's show, I think we have a report from Shelley Stocken. That's a hint, Shelley. I hope we have a report from Shelley Stocken. We'll see what Maynard's been up to since winning that award, and other things that I can't predict because I can't
see into the future.
If I could, I'd probably hit the casino. Well, with the rain still coming down outside the window and the cats are found another window to look outside, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.